caught me off guard. I wasn't in my seat. You got to be quick on your feet to do this, kids. So, today is the last segment of your mapping of the United States. Everybody, yay, right? And today you're going to do the New England or the Northeast or New England states. It's got New England and then some of the other states down here below New England. So this is the map you're going to be coloring, and it goes with this part of the country right here. And that part of the country, historically speaking, is extremely significant, especially to the early part of American history, because this was the North, as we talked about in a previous video when you did the southern states mapping. I told you, I basically gave you a whole preview of what we're going to be building up to in this whole course, which is the Civil War and the differences between the North up here and the South down here. And remember again, when we started this country, it was only right here along the coast. So we talked more about the South in that first presentation, but I mentioned the North too and how their geography was much different. The North went in a non-farming direction because of their geography. They could only farm in small segments because of their poor soil and the colder climate. So they were going to make a lot of money for their economy by farming, so they went in an industrial direction. So they made things from their natural resources that they did have and turned those into products for people to buy. And these people down here had a much better setup with soil and climate to be farmers and build their economy on farming, and that's what they did. And that led to slavery as a big part of the Southern economy. And slavery, although in the early years of our colonies and the country, was present in the northern states up here, it never took hold to the extent that it did in the South. So as we went along, it became much easier for the Northerners to just end slavery in the North, which they did eventually. So the historical significance of the North, besides that part of the story we talked about, is great. We had, this was a place right here which was ground zero for the beginnings of our country. When we start talking about all the trouble between the colonies and their mother country back in England, and the King of England, King George, we're going to find out that most of that trouble was centered right here in Boston and around Massachusetts. That's where the Sons of Liberty were doing their work. They were the ones who plotted a lot of protests and things like that against England. They were leaders in the community, but they were anonymous because they didn't want to get in trouble. So they kept themselves on the down low. And they were the ones, for instance, who plotted and carried out the Boston Tea Party, which we'll talk about later, of course. And the war itself got started just outside of Boston at a place called Lexington and Concord. So this area up here was basically where the wave of anti-England, let's be our own country, United States of America, got started. And many of our most famous founding fathers lived and worked in this area, and some from down here too, like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington were from Virginia. But this was the source of the war mostly. So we'll be talking about that again. But when I see this part of the country and this map here, I think of our country's birth as an independent nation. So that's your assignment today, is to label and color and do all that stuff that you've been doing. And this is the final piece, so once you finish this, you'll have all 4 maps that you did, the Western, the Southern, the Midwest, and the North, and you'll have all those to study, so you'll be able to ace that nice big 50-point quiz. So good luck, and don't forget to take your picture of this and turn it in.